It's your fourth trip to the Final Four.
Yes,
First time going back-to-back in program history. What is different about this year?
it's a surprise. It's nice to have kids go back that know they've played there before. I think that's going to be a big key. Usually there's always nerves when they step out on a field for a state championship or a state semifinal. And, we've got 4 kids that are playing that have experienced that. A few guys that sat on the bench last year, they're starting, and then the group of juniors that came up that hadn't experienced it. But we talk about tradition, we talk about experience. I think it's going to help us a little bit, take the nerves away. But doing this for 40 years and 47 years altogether, fortunately, I also got to go as an assistant coach with Rob Rose at Whitmer in 1980. It's really hard to get there, and to get there 4 times as a program and back-to-back is pretty incredible, I think.
You talked about the fact that not only have you been there as a head coach, but as an assistant as well.
Yes.
What other perspective have you gained over the years getting to this point that will help you this year?
I think not being nervous, enjoying the moment. I can remember the first year we made it, Coach Singer at Cincinnati St. Xavier said at a meeting, because they used to take you down and meet before now we do everything by Zoom. Because Dave, I've been here before. I didn't enjoy it the first time because I was so nervous and worried about this and that. He goes, enjoy it. And I think I did the first time, and every time I'm more worried about the other guys enjoying it, the kids enjoying it, the coaches enjoying it. Last year, my coaches were so excited because they had never experienced it, and some of them coached a lot of years in a lot of sports. Just to see them and the kids get excited is what keeps me happy.
And it's hard not to be excited considering the season you've had to this point. On 3 different occasions, you guys had a win streak of 6 games or more. But what stretch can you point to and say, that is when we became a team capable of winning the state title?
I think it was after the Clay loss. We had a week where we lost 18-0 in 2 games to AW. We lost to Clay 7-2, and then we played Lakota West, who's in the state Final Four, 10-9. I don't ever remember an 0-4 week in my coaching career. I know these kids have never gone 0-4 in their lives. And we came back out and we had scheduled what I considered a great backloaded schedule, where we had Wapakoneta, we had Elmwood all in the Final Four. We traveled, we played Fremont. We played a lot of games in the last 2 weeks. 7 of the teams ended up going to the regionals. We played Ottawa Hills again. At that point, we stepped it up and started competing. We got rid of some of the errors. We sort of settled into our positions. We got our pitching by committee, I call it. And that started taking off. Kids started picking each other up. And at that point, I knew with the teams that we were seeing that if we got a couple breaks, I thought we'd have a chance. I mean, I thought we could get to the regionals all the time. I knew we were going to have to be the St. Ed's team or, some really good teams. But I think our kids were confident with St. Ed's from last year. And then they played fearless against Jackson. So, I just think the back end of our schedule was built to get ready for tournament.
But after that 0-4 stretch, you called it unfamiliar territory for everybody. What were the conversations like in the dugout?
Well, the year before, last year's team, I
sent an email after the Anthony Wayne loss.
I sent the Anthony Wayne loss. We ripped them. We yelled at them. This year we didn't. We just talked about rationally about, you're better than this. You've worked too hard for this. We've worked too much in the winter. We've worked too much in the fall. You guys know what to do. We just gotta do it. And it was a different personality. Last year's group, they thanked me for yelling at them because I had some tough kids that, this group is, yelling wouldn't help. That they wouldn't have responded. They're good kids. They understand what I want. They buy into everything I've asked. And we just calmly said, this is what we got to do. And they responded. I'm very proud of this group.
When you look at the strengths of your team, the pitching by committee is one of, if not the best thing about your team. But when you guys were 9-2, you told me Tyler Palmer, obviously your ace, your number one, but you still had to figure out your 2, 3, and 4. Once you did that, how did that unlock the potential of this team?
Well, it just gave us the ability to win every game. We don't strike out a lot of people. We have to play solid defense in that 0-4 stretch. We kick the ball around a lot. Now we're making some great plays. I think I have one of the best outfields I've ever had. They're so fast. They saved the game against Jackson with some great catches. But just having guys that can go out there and throw strikes and make it competitive. We played Fremont Ross last Wednesday, and we threw 6 pitchers, and then we threw a shutout because kids were going out there. You don't have to be superhuman. You don't have to strike everybody out. Trust your defense. And I think that gelled. Banks, Aaron Banks has just stepped up, done a great job. Preston Ferris has done a good job. We've had some good relief pitching out of Winters and Zeeb and Crowley and Sharpie, and they compete. That's all I ask for.
And it's interesting you have all those names that you can point to because, again, you only returned 4 starters. You had to lean on a JV team that went 26-0 last season. Earlier this year, you told me that those kids from JV brought energy.
Yes.
But now going through the year, what more have they brought to this team to get you to this point?
They grew up.
You have to if you're playing at this
they
level.
grew up. They figured out what their strengths are, and they play to it, and they've accepted roles. Ryan Reddick's probably a great example. He was fighting with Asher for catcher and got hurt and got Asher, 5 straight starts, and Asher did a good job. And then we had the injury at shortstop to Kessinger, and we moved some people around. I go, Ryan's too good of an athlete just to be a backup catcher. So we put him at second, put him in a 2-hole. He's made every fundamental play at second. He can turn the double play. He walks a lot. He hits singles. He's not a power hitter. He can get the squeeze down. He can get the sack down. Just understands the game. And and at the beginning of the year, he's a backup, and now he's a starter. Noah Lindsay. When Kessinger got hurt, we put him at short. Wasn't hitting. Double tapped the glove a little bit. Teams were taking advantage of it. Benched him. Tried to move things around. Finally said we got to put him back in the shortstop. He's the best we got. And he got rid of the double tap and, done a nice job for us. And that was a kid that was a backup last year, and I don't think he anticipated he'd be the starting shortstop in the state semifinals, but, I trust him.
It's so difficult to point out one guy on this team. Most teams you could point out maybe 1 or 2 guys that led them there. But for your team, it seems like it's really a committee approach. How much has that helped you this year, not having to lean on one guy per se?
I think it's helped a lot because the 2 guys we do have, Mefford and Heitmeyer, they've been streaky at times, and one's had to pick the other up, and we've had some times where both have been struggling a little bit, and other kids have stepped up, and we got some kids on the bench that Owen Mead's a defensive specialist, depending on who we bring in from the outfield to pitch. He'll go in, he can catch fly balls well for us, and Ben Miller's been, pinch hitting for us, and everybody's bought into the roles. I'm always for the 40-some years I've coached, it's always about roles. I always like carrying 16, 17 players. Other coaches and parents sometimes go, why do you carry so many? Because I'm going to ask your son to do something. I'm going to ask him maybe to be a relief pitcher. Grant Petty's has done a great job pitching relief for us. A lot of kids don't want to do that in today's world. These guys do. They relish it. They know what their role is. Owen Mead knows about the 5th inning. He's going to go warm up in case he has to go into the outfield. Miller starts swinging a bat.
I feel like you've named every single player on your team.
I think I have, because every
they've contributed.
Our 17 players. Even we brought up a JV player for tournament, Brendan LaPointe, he gets stuck with a bullpen catching because I don't have a bullpen catcher with Reddick playing. He's 1 for 1. We pinched hit him, and he may be surprised after he watches this, but he may be pinch hitting this weekend because he had a great batting practice the other day.
Wow.
But I firmly believe all 17 kids, I could pick out a game where they won it for us.
Division I is the only division without a top 10 team from the coaches poll in the Final Four.
Right.
How much does that help your chances going into the state Final Four?
I think it helps a lot because I think if you look, a lot of the big arms are gone. You know, the Moeller pitchers are gone, the Mason pitchers are gone. I look at Springboro, our opponent, they have pitchers similar to us. They're going to be 82, 84, good breaking balls, pitch backwards, but that's not 88, 89. That's not 90. So I think there'll be competitive games, which makes it a little bit more fun, I think, for everybody. You know, that when you got the kid out there that's throwing 92, 93, high school kids struggle with that. So it's a matter of who's going to put the ball in play and makes the fewest mistakes.
And finally, we know your team is 17 kids deep. You just went through pretty much every single name. But to put it simply, what will it take for you guys to come back to Perrysburg with the state title?
I think we just have to keep what we're doing, is getting timely hits, pitchers making great location on their pitches, and playing air-free baseball. I mean, it's pretty simple, and we got to be a little bit lucky at this stage. You got to get the break, you got to get the ball that's landed fair by that far, and you got to have their ball go that far foul. And sometimes it takes an umpire's call, good or bad. Everybody's good at this stage. It's just the intangibles that come through. And I think our kids believe, and no matter what, whether we win or lose, I'm proud of them.